You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darryl Kinsey Jr. Welcoming you to another lap of the extra mile for today, March the 3rd, 2025. Well, spring is on its way. The racing season is in full swing. And help me to talk about all of this are my co-hosts, Jenn B, Christopher Lehman.
How's it going?
Good evening.
Well, thank you all for joining us, whether you're watching live on YouTube or Twitter or listening on the re-air on Spreaker.com or wherever you get your podcast. Sit tight. We're going to pay some bills and be right back. Start the show after this.
Rising, shining. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon. But it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey, yo, what's good, Georgia? It's your boy ACS, and if you love sports from the Peach State as much as I do, then Georgia Sports Central is your one-stop destination for down south sports, courtesy of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you a Yellow Jacket at heart, or do you bleed the red and black of the Bulldogs? Do you keep it true to Atlanta with Trae Young, Capella, and the boys? Do you rise up with the Dirty Birds on Sundays? Are you excited to see what the future holds for Michael Penix Jr., Bijan, and the rest of the Falcon squad? Do you live at 755 Battery Avenue? Do you rep for Albies, Acuna, and the rest of Braves country? If so, then let's get united every Wednesday for some Braves, Hawks, UGA, Georgia Tech, Atlanta Dream, Falcons, and more on Georgia Sports Central, only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. This is the Extra Mile. Darryl, Jenn, and Chris here with you this evening. Mike will be joining us in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and get right into it. And we will start with what went down in the NASCAR race this weekend in Circuit of the Americas. It was the new short course this year for the Cup Series. This was the format last used by V8 supercars back in the day. And Chris, Jenn, I will say, it put on a pretty compelling race. Ooh, it would help if I unmuted people.
Oh.
Yeah, that would explain it. What I was saying is, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch it. It's my son's birthday weekend, so we were pretty busy. However, I did see quite a lot about Christopher Bell and Kyle Busch there at the end, and the difference that 1 year can make, which certainly it is much different this year than last year. So, but I did hear, quite a few good things from just scrolling Twitter. It seemed like it was a pretty good race.
Well, Jenn, going into the race, the big concern was whether or not they were going to have enough passing zones to make the race exciting. And the Cup Series kind of made their own way, and it really helped that NASCAR either forgot about or intentionally decided not to call track limits on turn 6, which was the last part of the S's before they hit the cutout to go down the back straightaway, because it allowed the drivers to get up a little bit more speed and try to dive to the inside of someone. And that really helped with that last lap, or the last stage battle between Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch, who we'll talk about in a minute, Tyler Reddick, and William Byron, who are all there racing at the end.
Yeah, it was a clean race, and I did like that they avoided throwing out the cautions unless they were absolutely necessary this race, and they let them drive. And the finish was fantastic. It was a battle to the end.
Yeah, I think we've had 3 great finishes. I know one we got, unfortunately, the caution on the last lap took it away in Atlanta, but it has been a hot start to the season when it comes to finishes in NASCAR.
Yeah, I was impressed with Chase Elliott working his way back up into the top 10 after getting involved in a crash earlier on in the race, and it was a good race, and I'm impressed with Kyle Busch's response at the end.
Yeah, Kyle had to show some humility there at the end after things didn't go the way that he might have wanted. He's been trying to get through a long winless drought, and unfortunately, with just a few laps to go, Christopher Bell got him up out of there. And unfortunately, Kyle ended up falling back. I think he ended up finishing 4th at the end of that, but was gracious in defeat. But Chris, it really comes down to, unfortunately for Kyle Busch, he's at that point as a veteran where you just don't know where this last win is going to come.
Yeah. And we do see that a lot with these guys as they get older. You talk about Hall of Famers that can go years, without a win in their final seasons. And it's not horribly uncommon for that to happen either. You go 2-3 years without a win. Most recently, Jimmy, we were all hoping that he would eke one final one out in his last season. And unfortunately it was 3 years. It was at least I think it was 3 years of racing without a win. So I think Kyle's got a couple more wins in his pocket. I do think he's got a couple more before he's retired and gone, but he has got to be feeling it, because we got to be closing in on probably the longest stretch of his career where he hasn't had a win. So,
well, it's been 2 years, or it's going on 2 years since he won in the Cup Series. He did win in the Truck Series at Atlanta last week, but it was Gateway 2023, his last winning Cup, and you could just see Samantha's face the whole time. They kept showing the camera when Christopher Bell and Kyle Busch would get close, and she was pulling for it so hard. Unfortunately, it just wasn't to be.
He could have gone vintage Kyle Busch and won that race, but he didn't.
I think we were all expecting it. Christopher Bell, William Byron, Tyler Reddick were your top 3 in this race. Chase Elliott, he had himself not a great day, but he gets a great finish, ends up 4th on the day, got taken out lap 1 by Ross Chastain, who made, it's lap 1, everybody's diving into turn 1, we know how it goes, but cleans out Chase Elliott, and I guess we're starting another round of Ross Chastain versus Hendrick Motorsports.
I've seen this movie before.
Yeah, we know how that ends, and usually not well.
Yeah, it does not end well for Ross Chastain.
No. I don't think that guy needs another call from Rick Hendrick to his boss.
Yeah,
we know how those go. Some people think it's kind of sapped him of his strength, but Ross, he's going to be aggressive, and mini Ross, as I'm going to call him now, Carson Hocevar. Boy, oh boy, would he have been That first lap, my heart jumped in my throat at the start when I don't know if Bubba spun the tires or what, but Carson about ran into the back of him, and it's like if he causes a giant wreck in front of the field, because Bubba was going to take out 10, 15 cars with them if he didn't hold on to that. It would have turned into the elimination chamber right there right there on lap 1.
Yeah, everybody would have been boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. For if you want to know the equivalent, it would be when for the spoilers for those of you that have not watched Elimination Chamber yet. It would be like when Jade Cargill came back and beat the absolute dog piss out of Naomi at the start of that match. Carson gotta find the not the off switch, but the volume knob on the aggression. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
And he'll calm down a couple weeks. I hope.
Yeah, we don't want Michael Jordan taking it personally. Or anybody at this point. 'Cause think about half the field wants to beat us behind.
Yeah, but the only one that'll actually do anything about it is probably Michael McDowell. He's the only one I feel like not afraid to get up in people's faces anymore.
Well, that's his teammate, so I think it'd be different.
Correct.
But
I would never rule out two teammates going at it. Not in NASCAR.
I think it's been a while since we've seen two teammates like actually fight, if ever.
We're due.
I think we're more than due for it. We're due for a good NASCAR fist fight. I don't think we've seen one of those in forever.
Yeah. I feel like the last good drama we saw was Bristol, probably 4 years ago when Kyle Busch dumped Chase Elliott and Chase gave him the bird as he was driving by.
Well, I think that was Chase and Harvick.
Oh, was it? Yeah, it was.
The first real...
No. It was Kyle Busch. It was definitely Kyle Busch.
Was Harvick after? Oh, no, Harvick was before that.
I don't know. But I remember just seeing the bird. He still got his helmet on. Just giving... I'm 100% positive it was Kyle Busch.
Yeah, that's when Kyle Busch put him out the race. I'm thinking about when Kevin got held up for the win
in the playoffs.
Chase, yeah.
That was in the first round of the playoffs. I don't know, 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Man, the Kyle Busch thing, maybe that was more 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
COVID messes up your time frames.
It sure does.
Because you delete 2020 from your mind, so now every year is just every year after that is just off. I can't keep track of it myself. Shout out to Noah Gragson, who hit I think everything but the pace car on Sunday. Still found his way to an 8th place finish. Shane Van Gisbergen, surprising. I think he was the prohibitive favorite. Him and Connor Zilisch. Shane faded in the early stages, but rallied back to 6th. Connor Zilisch, who absolutely dominated that Xfinity race on Saturday, got caught up when his teammate Daniel Suarez spun. Zilisch had nowhere to go. Both cars make big contact, and Zilisch goes out the race, Suarez out the race, and has not been a great start for the season for Suarez. 2 DNFs now. Connor Zilisch finished 37th and 35th. Austin Dillon.
Who?
Yeah, nobody cares. But I do want this race back, and I think it dispels a little bit of the myth that the Cup Series can't race on road courses, because this was a good one. I think it's the best race we've had at COTA in years. Chris, I would say if they upload this race on YouTube, go watch it back because it was great.
I would say that I think over the last season to season and a half, road courses have been the highlight of NASCAR.
Yeah. Well, this car works better on them, so that helps.
Yeah. I think they really found something with this car.
Yeah. They just got to fix it on short tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. But I want them to keep road courses. This is great.
Yes. So I hope they can keep the momentum going. We're heading to Phoenix this week. This is usually the playground of Ford, as we're getting our preview of what the championship race could look like. But as you look at the results, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, that top three, that could easily be the three drivers coming back to Phoenix later this year to run the championship, because they look like the strongest so far. Christopher Bell going for 3 straight wins. William Byron, put some respect. Chris isn't going to do it, but everybody else, put some respect on the 24's name.
Right?
And Tyler Reddick carrying the mail for 2311. Unfortunate race for Bubba Wallace. They played the stage points on Sunday. Did not get them a good finish in the stat sheet, but ended up that day with the 9th most points with 30. So they're doing what they didn't do last year, which was be aggressive and get stage points.
So question for you, Darryl, and this is kind of, and is you as well, Jen. But obviously playing the stage point game, race 3 of the season, that's a bold strategy, not trying to get the dub. Yeah. Do you think we'll see 16 winners this year, or do you think we're going to have some people pointsing their way in?
With how Christopher Bell is going, I think we're going to have a lot of drivers pointing their way in.
Right? I mean, the way it's looking right now, Byron and Bell are going to win every race.
Yeah. I was just curious, because I just think playing the stage point strategy is just, it's an odd thing to be focusing on right now. Unless you know you have no shot of winning the race, then go for a good points day. But if you got a shot, you need to shoot your shot.
Well, the 23, they did qualify second. Yes, Bubba Wallace did qualify second on a road course. Unfortunately, the race went about as well as as well as it would go for Bubba Wallace on a road course, which is not well at all. But
actually, this year we haven't celebrated Booty Barker being gone yet.
Well, it's been a much listening to the communications and watching how that car has driven. It's a noticeable difference, and I can tell you, in stage 2, he said the car was a little bit tight. When they had a caution in the final stage, he said the car was fine. So
they made an adjustment.
They're making good in-race adjustments.
Wow,
that's something I can't say. I know, right? It's something we couldn't say a lot last year.
It's been 4 years since you've had that.
Yeah, so I think you're in a good spot when it comes to 2311, and that second car, even though the results didn't show it, did finish top 10 at Talladega, Atlanta, coming up to Phoenix, where he's always been good. It's going to be a good weekend for that 23 car.
Good.
But this week, we should finally be hearing what's going on with Chase Briscoe's penalty. For whatever reason, NASCAR has been delaying that. I don't know what that is with the hearing. God only knows at this point with them. But hopefully this week we should be hearing about that, because that team's got the boom coming towards them if they fail. To rewind what happened there, Chase Briscoe's facing a 100-point penalty and -10 playoff points and losing his crew chief for 4 weeks for an improperly mounted spoiler from Daytona. And we have not heard the resolution on that yet.
Yeah, that was a big penalty.
Yeah.
And if true, a big no-no.
Yeah. And that's a penalty that's going to be very hard to dig out from. You're basically racing for the win from the here on out.
Yeah. That's your only shot, pretty much.
Yep.
Short of some real fluke happening, one after another, after another.
Yeah.
For the next 20-some races.
So we're going to go ahead and take our first break of the evening. When we come back, IndyCar had its Fox debut, and the results were mixed. Also, Ferrari already scored their first big win in a world championship this year. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And we're back here in Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio. Darryl, Jenn B, and Chris here with you this evening. Heading into segment 2, getting to talk about some IndyCar and the World Endurance Championship. We'll start with IndyCar on this evening. And before we go any further, during the show, you may see this link down here at the bottom. That is our supporters club for the Extra Mile. If you want to show your love for the sport or show your love for the fastest show on IE Sports Radio, just visit that link down at the bottom, $5. We've got a Discord up and running, and we are planning Discord access and some special watch-alongs with the entire cast in the future. So if you want to be a part of that, make sure you sign up for the Spreaker.com Supporters Club for the Extra Mile here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. So let's go ahead and get into some IndyCar action. It was the Fox broadcast debut here for IndyCar, very first race for them at the Grand Prix of St. Pete, and put some feelers out to some friends on social media, and a bit mixed was the broadcast response from folks. I will say it was a damn sight better than what we got out of the NASCAR broadcast that day. Watching those back-to-back, Jen, I know you missed the IndyCar race. It was night and day. Will Townsend and James Hinchcliffe, for one, they just felt like they were paying attention to what was going on and spent less time trying to get zingers in on each other. They're actually focusing on what was going on the
and
race. And
having a conversation with themselves instead of actually paying attention to the race.
Absolutely.
I noticed that so much during the NASCAR race. It was driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
and
how about we talk about the race?
yeah, there was a lot of that was not going on anymore, or not going on in the IndyCar broadcast. However, there was a lot of stuff that they unfortunately missed. They didn't tell us that Scott Dixon, who finished second in this race, drove the entire race without radio communication. His radio broke, and he had no way to communicate with the team. Still finished second for the 5th time at this racetrack. He's 0 for 21 now trying to win this race, but he's the master at running second. And if there was, Chris, there was one driver where I would say you could yank the radio disqualification out, he'd still be able to drive to second place, it'd be Scott Dixon.
Absolutely. He has proven over his entire career just how good he is. He's just, he wins championships. He's always there. We talk about how, anytime there's a real strategy race, particularly when it comes to tire management or fuel management, Scott Dixon is always the guy that we're saying, one, don't count him out, and two, he's probably the favorite. So when you've got a guy like Scott Dixon, who over the course of, his entire career has just shown consistency, great finishes, and just overall professionalism and results, I would agree with you. If there's one guy that could probably eke out, a top 5 finish, probably even top 10, it would be Scott Dixon.
I just want to pause from the racing conversation real quick, as this news is just coming across my feed, broke in the last couple of hours. There are now 2 Jimmy Johnsons that are now in retirement from the sports world. The NFL legendary football coach and NFL on Fox analyst Jimmy Johnson calling a career after 31 years of coverage. He finally got that yellow jacket and finally got to bury the hatchet with the owner of the Cowboys and get in the Ring of Honor. So congratulations, Jimmy, and enjoy retirement.
Yep.
Hey, come join the other Jimmy and watch some NASCAR.
Yes.
Yeah, one is
You can
Jimmy
hang
with a
out with
Y.
Joe Gibbs.
Yes. They get the 2 football coaches together in NASCAR. Get the NFL head coach to NASCAR owner pipeline going. You haven't had one of those in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute for that.
Yeah, but
it worked out pretty good last time.
Yeah, I think it's worked out for Joe Gibbs just a little bit. Yeah, so to get back with the broadcast, the graphics were also lacking. They did not have a push to pass metric. When NBC would do it, sometimes they would switch out the numbers of the interval with the number of push to pass or the amount of push to pass remaining, which is about 150 seconds is the max. So they had to start telling us that verbally, which I know NASCAR, I think they are not NASCAR, Fox. I don't think they took a lot of folks from NBC. I think they just shuffled them internally so they wouldn't know that, but that is a graphic people want to see. They also really didn't mention anything about the hybrid system that the IndyCars run. And I don't know if that was by design. This is on Fox, by the way, but that is something you got to tell people, that these cars are hybrid and they make a lot of power, and that changes a lot with the fuel strategy and everything. Right. So a lot was left wanting in that broadcast, in my opinion. Michael is here now.
Hello, everyone. My apologies for being late. I had some stuff to take care of before the show, and it kind of dragged on. But how's everybody doing tonight?
It's all good. Ralph Calise joining us there in the chat, host of the Yinzer Report for all your Pittsburgh sports needs. Thank you so much for joining us. Taryn Rodriguez, our Set Point volleyball show host, was here with us earlier as well. Dude is really he's putting in the work for that volleyball coverage, by the way. So make sure you give his show a listen. We just got into the IndyCar race, Michael. I don't know how much you saw of it, but we were talking about the broadcast, and gonna say overall better than what NASCAR on Fox was doing, but still needs room for improvement.
Yeah, I definitely think there's definitely some room for improvement. When I watched the race on Saturday or Sunday. And I don't know. It's just like they kind of need to read what's happening around track a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's been a problem with Fox for the last few years, though. and I don't know what that's about. I know they moved a lot of the they moved some people away from traveling to the racetrack, but that does not take away the amount of stuff they just miss. Like, some of that is on the pit reporters for not getting in there and asking the questions.
Yep. I agree. Wholeheartedly.
Marcus Los Great, host of the Gloves Off Boxing Podcast. He's going to have a lot to talk about this week. Marcus joins us here in the chat. He's going to have a lot to talk about this week because that Tank Davis fight, not great. Not great officiating. And boxing has been known for bad officiating. So make sure to listen to that show later this week to hear all about his feelings on what was a very controversial fight. But in the in the IndyCar race and how it went, well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Alex Palou, the 3-time champ, picks up the win in St. Pete, duels Scott Dixon and Joseph Newgarden to the end of that race to pick up to round out the podium. Scott McLaughlin, who led a race high 40 laps, ended up just off the podium. Unfortunately, tried to make the green tires, that middle green tire stint, tried to go long and then get an advantage with the green tires. Unfortunately, the new soft tires didn't last very long, Michael. I think they got about 12 laps before they had to change those tires.
Man, did they switch over to Pirelli in 2011?
Look, IndyCar asked for more of a difference between the two tires. They got it. I think they may have got too much of a good thing, though. I think they have to walk that back a little bit. Christian Lundgaard tried to take those tires 30 laps, ended up in 8th at the end of that race. Kyle Kirkwood was the best of the rest of the non-Ganassi or Ganassi or Penske drivers that were in that top 4. Kirkwood, career best 5th. Marcus Ericsson, 6th. Phelan Rosenquist, the aforementioned Lundgaard, Rinus VeeKay, and Alexander Rossi round out the top 10. They'll be heading out to the Thermal Club in California for a race. That'll be for race 2 of the season. That was a non-points event. It's now upgraded to full point status. Why? I have no idea, but IndyCar's got to make money somehow. We'll head into the World Endurance Championship now. They raced on Saturday. Michael, a big one for Ferrari. They go 1, 2, 3 in hypercar.
Yep, it was a doozy of a race. I don't know if you guys saw the clip of this, but one of the doors on the Aston actually came off. I actually didn't flow. I flew off during the race.
Yeah, I saw that. That was wild. It's the new car jitters. Always something that you think isn't going to break usually breaks on new sports cars, and it was the door on the Aston Martin. They had a respectable race, but
I think
Ferrari right now just in a league of their own.
Definitely expect them to get hit by BOP. I'm not going to lie, but I think the real talking point was the Cadillacs.
Mm-hmm.
It's around about 2 hours to go. I think maybe 4 hours to go. They're getting ready for a restart. And then it's like the second Cadillac thought the first Cadillac was going, but he wasn't, and he hit the brakes and ran into the back of the second Cadillac, caused a big accident.
I saw the clips of that. I was working, so I wasn't able to watch all of this race, but that is the worst case scenario for any race team, Chris. You can't run into the back of your teammate. And at that point, they were running second and third.
Actually, they were running first and second.
Oh, that's even worse. I thought they were second and third at that time.
No, they were first and second.
Yeah, they were 1-2 and knocked each other out of contention for the rest of the day.
They did manage to bounce back into a top 10 finish, though.
Yeah.
I have seen the teammates running 1-2 and knocking themselves out movie before. As we know, Nico and Lewis did not. Neither one of them were willing to give up any ground to the other.
I think this is one you don't want to remember. Azerbaijan, I think it was 2017, 2018. It was Max and Ricardo.
Yeah, the end of Ricardo's time at Red Bull.
The end of Ricardo, as we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do not wreck Max.
So yeah, teammates hitting each other leads to some dire consequences, and it's at a time when Cadillac really needs a clear victory. Because I don't know, their program has just been getting slapped around all year round.
Well, it ran decently at Daytona, and they usually run well in IMSA. It's just, for whatever reason, they get hit by the bad luck bat in WEC. Remember last year at Spa, they're running in a good position, and then Eau Rouge bit them.
Yeah. So it's I don't know if they got the Ferrari curse or what.
It follows.
Yeah, it's jumped to a new team this year. Meanwhile, in GT, TF Sport continues the winning ways for a Corvette in top flight endurance racing. They pick up the win with a last lap pass over the United Autosports McLaren to pick up the win. And we've been waiting for that Corvette GT3, Michael, to show some teeth. And this year might be the year that we see the Corvette go back to picking up wins, this time in the hyper-competitive GT3. And to be honest, they should have had a double at Daytona if it wasn't for a wild BMW.
Yes, the BMW that got moved out of the way. Or as I like to say, NASCAR out of the way.
Yeah. That is one we will remember for quite some time.
I wonder if those drivers ever see each other on track again.
They will. It's endurance racing. They will. And Sebring is coming up next week.
All I gotta say is I hope it's not at Petit Le Mans with the championship on the line.
Oh God. Let's just hope Corvette has it locked up, because if they don't, they're getting sent by a BMW. And the greatest endurance race of them all, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Today was the announcement that endurance racing fans around the world have been waiting for. The 2025 provisional entry list, Michael. It's out. 62 cars ready to go.
62 cars.
Yep. We're going to take a look at this in just a moment. So I'm going to get up here on the screen so we can go through it together. And here it is. The greatest entry list in all of endurance racing. The 24 Hours of Le Mans provisional entry list. I don't know why I'm talking this up so much, but hyping up this race. You can see there 21 hypercars. They're going to be in this race. Going to pop it up. There are your teams right there on your screen. And the highlight from this in the hypercar ranks, Wayne Taylor Racing heading over with Ricky Taylor, Jordan Taylor, Felipe Albuquerque, taking out what will be numbered the 101 in Europe this year, Michael. So Wayne Taylor, nearly 20 years after he raced with Cadillac in 2002 at this race, now owns the car that his sons will be driving in June.
Yeah, and that's definitely awesome to see there. To see the Wayne Taylor Racing make it to Le Mans. I'm gonna be watching them with great interest there. I hope they have a great result.
Yep, the Wheeling Cadillac will also be joining all of the WEC regulars from Hypercar in LMP. In LMP2,
I forgot those guys existed.
well, they do still race. There will be 17 LMP2s. Just if you love prototypes, this is going to be a race for you. Most of the teams do not have their drivers.
Oh, Theo Porcher.
Yep, Theo Porcher will be back with Algarve Pro.
Quest.
Yeah, Inter Europol will be back with 2 cars. Algarve Pro. United Autosports will have their 2 Gibsons there as well. All of them are Rika Gibsons in LMP2. And the most important part of this class is we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 going for the race within the race, which is the the race within the race within the race, which is the Pro-Am trophy in LMP2. And then LMGT3, 24 cars will be in this class to wrap up the 62 car grid. And here's what I will say.
Is that Valentino Rossi?
Yep, Valentino Rossi. He drives in a BMW now.
Oh yeah, he drives the number conveniently named 46.
Yes. Well, that's his car, so.
Yeah.
But here's what I will say to Jen and Chris. You go for the hypercar when it comes to WEC. You stay for this class. It's had several names over the last few years, but LMGT3, they always find a way to put on the race of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So that is the race you're definitely going to want to watch.
If you look closely at the entry list sometimes over the years, you might find a movie actor or two trying to getting into the race.
Yeah, do we have Patrick? I don't think we have Patrick Dempsey back.
Yeah, I think we had a couple years ago when we had Michael Fassbender.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I don't think he made it.
No, unfortunately not. We do have a driver from Oman that'll be driving for Team WRT. That is a country we usually do not see a lot of race car drivers from, and we do have 6 cars on the reserve list, including the Proton Competition 44 for Hypercar. If there's issues with the other teams and they drop out, these reserved cars have an opportunity to get into the race. So that is your WEC lineup. And we're going to take one last break. When we come back, it's time to overreact over some testing times and get ready for Nitro. We'll be right back on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
The sand was nice.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
How we doing, sports fans? This is Christian Harvey, your host of Gritsville, USA, your go-to show for all things Detroit and Michigan here on IE Sports Radio. Whether you're here for Gritty Lions talk, getting pumped up for the great Detroit sports renaissance, or hating on your neighbor depending on if they were green or blue, we got you covered. Whether you're in the East, West, or Central, we got you covered. Join me as we tackle through all that the great state of Michigan has to offer in the world of sports. Catch me, Christian Harvey, each week on Gritsville, USA, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back here in the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. The gang's all here as we get into our final segment of the evening, and it is time to overreact over some testing times in Formula One. So I guess Williams is now going to be the front runners in the championship after the lap Carlos Sainz put down.
I think his revenge arc is starting, Darryl. See, you think I'm joking. It might be true.
Yeah. Formula One testing, always a crapshoot. These teams are on wildly different test programs, but it's just nice to have cars back on track. And now we are, Chris, we are one step closer to racing, and we will be in Australia before you know it. Next week, we'll be going racing.
I am stoked if Max wins.
Okay.
No, I'm excited though to see, cars back on track. It is a little less exciting going into a season, not assuming that Max is going to win every race. So that's going to be less fun, but
I mean, that makes one of us.
Yeah, right. 1 out of 3 or 4, not bad. But no, I'm excited. I think that we'll have a better idea of what the cars are actually going to be competitive because, obviously preseason testing means not a damn thing. And we won't actually know what's going on until the opening of qualifying. So it'll be exciting to see where the cars actually stand in relation to each other. And I'm just hoping that Red Bull's on top.
Well, for the newly minted Ferrari fan over here and the long-time Ferrari fan below me, I hope that we are going to see the Lewis Hamilton revenge arc. But looking at the testing laps completed by team, Mercedes completed the most over the test at 458. Red Bull actually the least with 304. You might be able to take some reliability notes out of this, but it's just hard to tell. Everybody goes in with different modes of operating over these 3 days. They're all looking at different things in their car. Some teams made race runs. Some teams did make some speed efforts, but it really doesn't matter because they're not really racing each other. They're just trying to see what their car's doing and whether or not it's to the driver's liking.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing. Lewis, I don't know if you saw the footage. There's like a footage of Lewis driving the Mercedes compared to the Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like he's driving a lot more smoother than he did when he was driving with Mercedes. And
I think that's a bad sign if you're the rest of the grid.
Yeah,
Michael is still a Leclerc fan, so just because Ferrari's competitive, you two are gonna have to fight it out over this year.
Can you imagine that? I mean, look, if a Ferrari wins the championship, I'll be happy regardless. But
I think we all will.
Yeah, he just looks so comfortable out there on track. He wasn't making as much, mistakes. I just can't get over how when I watched last year, he's jerking the wheel around trying to get it to turn, and here it's smooth. He's just smooth. He's calm. It's still weird to see him in red, but I'll get over it eventually.
Smooth operator.
Apparently he is, but he just looks like he's driving a lot better with that Ferrari. And I still don't know how this car is going to perform because, like I said, it's a 99% new Ferrari. So it could be good, could be bad, but I for what the drivers are saying, it's really good. I think the team to watch really so far, I think it's still McLaren. I think McLaren is still going to reclaim the throne next year.
Yeah, I think in the mid pack battle though, Jen, Chris, you got to be watching Williams. They got some speed.
Yeah,
and they laid back last year.
They've got preseason testing speed.
Yeah, they got. They also have.
Let's make sure we put that asterisk there.
Yeah, but here's what I will say: they laid back a lot on development last year to push it into this year.
Yeah,
and maybe that has borne fruit.
And they have James Vowles on the pit ball too, so that could also be great.
And I like Albon and Sainz being teammates. I think that's actually a pretty solid pair.
Yeah, they are. I like that pairing actually a lot.
I think they'll be good. I think they'll be good.
Two former Red Bull drivers too.
Yeah.
Well, they won't be damaging the race car.
Yeah, which that's what Williams was really targeting. Keep that budget.
I can imagine rebuilding the car from scratch every week was not great on the cost cap.
How did you guys think Antonelli looked on track?
I didn't see a ton. Usually I watch all of the preseason testing, but this year we're pretty understaffed at work, so I wasn't even around to be able to listen to it because usually I just kind of have it on the background listening. But I mean, if you talk about times and laps ran, I mean, he was right about where you'd expect a Mercedes to be.
Yeah, I think he looked pretty solid out there.
I think he equipped himself well, but the first Grand Prix is where the challenge is going to be.
Yeah, we'll see how I think the real test is going to be, does he make it out of Q2 in that first qualifying effort? Or at least can he put it within 2 or 3 positions of George?
I think the Mercedes this year, it does look a lot more solid. But I think the main concern is whether they handle that temperature.
Mm-hmm. That car is very temperature sensitive.
Yeah, so if it's cold, it's not going to run well. If it's hot, it's going to run well. So I think they got to figure that out.
Yeah.
And before we get out of here, I do want to wrap this in a bow. One comment I would say about Formula One. I think you're going to find out whether or not that shelf life on number 44 is still there or not. And that's all I'm going to say about that. The other thing I will say, some news here from Chris. Colton Herta. We talked about that last week, actually. Seems to be a favorite for one of those Cadillac seats in 2026.
And that's according to Andretti himself.
Yep.
Is that he is the odds-on favorite for one of the seats at least.
Yeah, I think they do want to have an American driver there, and we've all been singing Colton Herta's praises. So we're hoping he gets there. Hopefully he'll have a better pit crew than what he's had in IndyCar.
Yeah. Speaking of pit crews, one of the most famous faces on the grids departed this year.
Yeah, Callum Nicholas. He's going to be a brand ambassador for Red Bull, but he's out of the mechanic suit. I'm glad that he got the step up, but going to miss him out there.
Yeah, I think arguably out of any mechanic on pit lane, he got the most footage over his career.
Yes.
Like that guy, he was always being shown. And if you don't know who he is and you watch Formula One, just look him up and you'll be like, oh, yep, that's who that is. Everybody knows him.
Yeah, he's got his own pod. everybody and their mama's got their own podcast now, but he's been one of the most knowledgeable and approachable mechanics out there, and he deserves it. And we wish him well in the new role.
Yep.
So before we wrap up,
but because we got one more thing to discuss, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Monaco.
Yes, the second pit stop in the most boring race in Formula One.
Do you think it makes it more exciting?
I think it could. You're opening up a chance for more mistakes. You're opening up the strategy slightly. I think they need to mandate this at every race, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it remains to be seen. At this point, people keep saying, "Oh, these F1 cars are too wide." The F1 cars were too wide when they went there.
Yeah.
The last time the cars weren't too wide for this circuit was probably the 50s. So if this doesn't work, look, just chuck it in the bin or make it a time trial. Like, it's not a race. Just make qualifying on Saturday the Grand Prix and be done with it, because everybody just goes there to party anyway.
Or maybe to make it even the most interesting is Ferrari strategy has to call everybody's race, not just their own.
Oh, Jesus. Hey, those guys aren't there anymore.
You can't see it, but I have a giant middle finger towards the screen right now.
You will be getting that FedEx envelope in the mail tomorrow with your fine, Michael.
Laugh it up. We won the race last year.
I think it's 10,000 for your first offense.
Guys, cover your ears.
Oh Lord.
Hey, Chris.
Hold on. Let me call the FIA real quick.
Well, while they get us canceled on Twitter, I'll wrap us up here with the NHRA heads into Gainesville this weekend to start the season. You can watch that on Fox and NHRA.tv. Always fun when the NHRA comes into town. The ground pounding, nitromethane, breathing top fuel, and funny cars ready to go this season. They will be testing tomorrow and Wednesday. The show will be getting started with Sportsman on Thursday, and then the pros Thursday and Friday for qualifying, and obviously the race on Sunday. And there's a lot of unknown going into Top Fuel, as that class has a bumper crop of new drivers. Antron Brown won the championship last year. For Funny Car, it's simple. Who's going to beat Austin Prock? God only knows who's going to beat him at this point. Last year was absolutely dominant for a kid or he's not a kid anymore, but for a guy that had never driven a Funny Car before. He spanked the field last year. Going to be your odds-on favorite for the championship this year. In Pro Stock, Elite versus KB, the rivalry renews. It'll be interesting to see which one of those teams has the advantage. And speaking of rivalries in the pro ranks, unfortunately, Larry B is not here, but will Gage Herrera spank the field, and will Matt Smith threaten to quit?
Of course he will.
I don't know if we want to get a poll going on when he's going to announce that, but we know how that goes.
Every week.
Yeah. But hey, it's going to be a great racing weekend. You can catch the Gator Nationals, as I said, on NHRA TV or Fox. NASCAR will be on Fox as well. IndyCar will be up in a couple of weeks. And Michael IMSA's back this weekend, or next weekend, 12 Hours of Sebring coming up to wrap up the 36 hours of Daytona, or Florida.
I cannot wait for that.
Will that be on Peacock again?
Yes.
All right.
So IMSA will be on Peacock for every race, so you can watch it wherever you go.
Nice.
So we're going to get ready to get out of here for another edition of The Extra Mile. Thank you all so much for joining us. Remember, if you want to help support us, supporters link down there at the bottom of your screen. Make sure to check out iSportsRadio.com as well for more information on every show on this great network. We will see you guys next Monday, and we will see you as well. The next green flag. Good night, everybody.